Hi, today we're going to discuss some very common thinking patterns that we all do from time to time. What I have found through working with students is that during times of additional stress, these thought patterns can go into overdrive and cause us undue anxiety, even depression, or keep us stuck. So the following presentation and slides are some very simple yet effective changes we can make to essentially retrain our brain. Things that I feel are very important to stay positive and be even more successful. Change your thoughts, change your life. With a little practice, it can truly be that simple. The next two slides will focus on some very common thinking patterns, or cognitive distortions, as they are sometimes called. I will tell you the thinking pattern or error, give you an example or two, and then the change or what to do in the event you find yourself resonating with that particular pattern. Okay, so the first one, discounting the positive. This is when we don't pay attention to the positive experiences in our lives or reject them and somehow tell ourselves they don't count. For example, we meet people on campus, but yet we still say, no one likes me. Why is that? Well, we focus on the one or two that we don't click with rather than the few that we do. So this is a pattern we can find ourselves in. What can we do? Key thing would be to examine the evidence. Have we made a friend? Do some people like me? All right, that's your answer. So remind yourself of that. Polarized thinking. I can never do anything right, or I am so unorganized, right? This is an example of seeing things as all perfect or all terrible, all black or all right. The key is to try and think in shades of gray or break it down into parts. Can you do something right? Name them. Am I partially organized? For instance, do I get to class on time, but can't remember assignments? Okay, so I'm not completely unorganized, right? There's break it down into parts, think in shades of gray, and then work on the parts that we aren't happy with. Magnification, also referred to as catastrophizing. This is when we react to disappointment or failure as if it were the end of the world. A great way to put into perspective would be to use the double standard method. And what I mean by that is, what would you tell a friend? So in most instances, we're kinder to a sibling or friend than we are to ourselves. And it can be much easier for us to see things if we view it through that lens, right? So I'm a horrible student. I failed a test. I'm a horrible student. I'm so dumb. I'm really dumb. Okay, well, do you think that's true? And if your best friend came to you and told you the same thing, what would you tell them? Really try to help tell yourself something that you would, and be as kind to yourself as you would to your best friend. Jumping to conclusions. We make a negative interpretation even though there are no definite facts that convincingly support this conclusion. So ask ourselves, why do I believe this? Is it easier for me to believe it? What do I gain by believing this particular thing that I keep telling myself, right? I said something so dumb last night, so that person hates me. Or, the professor thinks I'm, lying. Okay, why? Why do you think that? Is it easier so that you just don't have to engage with that person again? Ask yourself that question, and I have a feeling it'll help you change that particular pattern. Okay, in personalization and blame, we tend to point the finger at ourselves for all the negative things or events we experience, no matter what the actual cause is. For example, you're working on a group project with 5 people, and it gets handed in late. Are you solely responsible for that? Or objectively speaking, are you 1/5 responsible for that? So do you unfairly put that responsibility onto yourself for things that aren't necessarily within your control completely? Another example would be, my friend failed a test, and I think if only I helped them study more, he wouldn't have failed. So are you that person who apologizes for things that are not your fault? If so, then try concentrating on what is within your control and ask yourself that question. And ask yourself, could I have determined the outcome of that situation? If the answer is no, then don't take that on. Okay, should statements. We are all guilty of this thinking pattern. I should be studying more. I should have studied more. I should be working out. Try a simple change in semantics. Okay, it changes the guilt-ridden shaming statement into a positive, more action-focused one. So instead of saying I should be studying, why don't you try saying, wouldn't it be nice if I could get my studying done now so I don't have to think about it later, and when I want to go get food with my friends, I'll have done it already. Try it. And finally, all of our thoughts are not necessarily true. This is a hard one to digest because they feel true, right? Our feelings are real. I'm not saying they're not, but just because you feel that way doesn't mean the thing that made you feel that way is true. So be careful and examine the evidence, concentrate on what is within your control, try some reattribution, and I'm not saying to put the blame elsewhere. I'm trying to not negatively put all of the blame or responsibility on yourselves. And rather than guilt yourself into doing things, try to take a positive step and take the positive action and do what's best for yourself. Give yourself the best opportunity to succeed. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, keep moving forward. The great late Martin Luther King Jr. said that. So if you find yourself in these thought patterns, ask yourself the following questions. What evidence do I have that this thought is true? What would I tell a friend who had the same thought? And if it is true, are the consequences really that bad? Or are they something that I can't live with? So simple positive changes can help change your outlook on life and help you reach your goals and help you succeed. So everything we've been talking about actually is a way to retrain your brain, okay, to be cognizant of your thoughts, be mindful of your thoughts. It has several benefits, including stress reduction and less emotional reactivity, right? Putting some space between what is happening and your reaction to things. You can turn negatives into positives. We'll learn from our mistakes. Keeping a journal is a really good way to find patterns and then use these tips to kind of change what you find that comes up for you again and again. Create a personal mantra for yourself, right? I love this. Think of something you want to live by and say it to yourself often. I got this. Attitude is everything. Kindness matters. Think of something that works with you and make it your personal mantra. One way of being positive, without a doubt, is to practice daily gratitude, right? Wake up every day and find the things that we are grateful for, or at the end of the day, list 5 things that we are grateful for that happened to us that day. Is really a great way to stay positive. It's proven that helping others helps ourselves, right? It helps us to get out of our mind. It helps us to realize that others go through the same things that we do. Pay it forward. It really feels good. Something that I tell all the students that I work with, if they find themselves in a rut or telling themselves patterns over and over again, is to switch up your environment. Spending time in nature has been proven to relieve anxiety and stress. So that could simply mean going for a walk, a hike, or a run, or changing a room in your house, finding a sunny spot in your apartment, your dorm room, or your hall, and sitting there and taking a class once in a while. Take a Zoom class outside. Meditate in the sun for 10 minutes and soak up that vitamin D. The Botanical Gardens, if you're on campus, is across the street and free. Try yoga. Try something you haven't done before. Whatever it is, switch up your environment so you don't get into any kind of rut. Finally, I've left you with a list of resources that I used for this presentation. The Feeling Good Handbook, Using the New Mood Therapy in Everyday Life by David Burns is a great resource for the common thinking patterns that we all find ourselves in. The word cognitive distortions was invented or made popular by Mr. Aaron Beck. He is a psychotherapist, and if you Google his name, there's loads and loads of information about this type of thing and ways to combat it from him. I gave you links to info sheets and downloadable forms where you could like record your thoughts and your patterns and kind of like go over them. I have the name and the number and the resource for the Counseling and Psychological Services here on Fordham, a few podcasts that I particularly like, and of course you could always get in touch with me. I've left my contact information, my email at Fordham, and I'm happy to discuss any of these thoughts with you in person, via Zoom, and kind of break them down for you if ever you want to reach out. So okay, thanks for listening, and good luck.